welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 391, and today's date is June 14th, 2014. And the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief for this Saturday. Before I get started, I just wanted to thank those people who donated to the X22Report.com site. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's get into the economic collapse news. And we understand the economy is completely falling apart. I mean, that's pretty much a fact at this point. And we realize that real estate, the mortgage originations are completely imploding on themselves, refinancing imploding on themselves, new construction, lumber sales, furniture sales, all not doing well. We understand that retail is completely falling apart. Stores are closing. Radio Shack is right there on the edge of completely going out of business, and we will never ever see Radio Shack stores again. And a lot of other retail stores are having troubles, and you can see that this is pretty much increasing as we go throughout the year as retail sales are completely imploding on themselves. And then we have the automobile sales. And, you know, they were all like, oh, look, automobile sales are up. We're channel stuffing all of these dealerships. We're giving loans now to the subprime people. Well, here we are. It's starting to fall apart. And we're seeing subprime car loans see a sudden jump in late payments, and we knew this was going to happen because those people who have subprime credit can't find a job or have a part-time job. They're getting loans, they're going out to get a car, and of course they're saying to themselves, let me get the car, I can go to a job, I can, you know, and whatever they're doing here, and it's really starting to fall apart. And a 3-year lending boom to car buyers with spotty credit that helped push auto sales to a 6-year high is starting to show signs of overheating. The percentage of loans packaged into securities that are more than 30 days late rose by 1.43% to 7.59% in the 12 months ended September 30th. And we can see that this is actually getting worse. The percentage is increasing, and we're going to see this go throughout the year. Just like we see real estate falling apart, they were giving 0% down, or they lowered the down payments from 20 to 25% down to 5%, and they lowered it to 3%. I see some places that actually have 0% down, 100% financing. We're seeing it all fall apart. People just can't make it today. People are having troubles finding work, and it is just falling apart. And what we're seeing now is that people are homeless, people are going hungry, and there are 33 U.S. cities that say that it is a crime if you feed the homeless, and you could be fined if they catch you feeding the homeless person. And this is absolutely ridiculous, and it's really unbelievable. Now, we understand that they're trying to paint a picture of what an anti-government homegrown extremist actually looks like, and this is what they're using Gerard Miller for. They're also using it for the gun grab. That this is a two-pronged approach to get those people who are conspiracy theorists, who are against the government, who don't agree with the government views, and also to get those guns and disarm the American people. That's what it's doing. That's what's happening right now. And what we're seeing, though, in New York right now, there is a leaked document. New York State Intelligence Center, the document entitled CTB 14-07, Recent Spike in Violence Targeting Law Enforcement, details several recent shootings while warning police to be on the lookout for people displaying anti-government viewpoints. Over the last week, there have been 3 attacks, 1 in Canada and 2 in the United States, in which law enforcement officers were targeted, leading to the death of 5 officers and 1 civilian. The bulletin states, based upon reporting, it appears all the suspects in these incidents were motivated by elements of far-right anti-government ideology with a particular fixation on law enforcement. So here we are. They're already starting to paint the picture of look out for these anti-government people. If you hear someone speaking about it or talking about it with friends, just be on the lookout, and they might be causing problems in the near future. And of course, we have to understand that Eric Holder has created the task force for finding those homegrown extremist domestic terrorists, those anti-government people, and this is all starting to really spread now across the country, and they're really painting the picture, and they are getting ready to go after these types of people. And of course, I am one of them. And I guess you people who are listening to me, you are one of these people also, because you do have a different viewpoint than the government. And of course, the government doesn't like this whatsoever. Now, out in Ukraine, what's happening, the whole situation is really intensifying. It is getting worse. Poroshenko's promises so far haven't been coming true, and everything is really escalating in Ukraine. And we can see the United States central bankers are out there, and they are really pushing to provoke Russia at this time. Of course, we heard news reports that, Russia is bringing tanks in to Ukraine, and they found like one or two, or I guess three tanks. The New York Times was out there saying that Russian sent tanks to separatists in Ukraine. And I just have to say this, out of everything that we've seen and the actions that Putin has done, do you really think he's going to send in 1 to 3 tanks into Ukraine? But what's very funny is that the United States has no problem with Ukraine driving a tank over the border into Russia. Now, of course, the United States government, central bankers, New York Times, the corporate media, they are out there saying that, yes, we have pictures. We know for a fact they've been doing this. Of course, they haven't produced anything. They haven't really shown any tanks from Russia inside Ukraine, just like every other thing they've said. We have proof. Yes, we have this. But if you ever notice, they never show the proof, because you know what they're doing? They're giving you lip service. And if they say it's true, then it has to be true. But we know it's the actual opposite, that it isn't true. But we have to remember and go back to the time where we saw tanks from Ukraine all in the southeastern region. Some were being abandoned, and this is exactly where these groups got the tanks. They didn't get them from Russia. They got it from the Ukraine side, because they brought them into, and there's actual video all over the place showing Ukrainian tanks in the southeastern region. Some of them were abandoned and left there, and the people there took them and used them. Now, we understand that the Ukrainian government, the puppet regime of the United States central bankers, have been using white phosphorus on the people in Donetsk and Slavansk. And right now, questions are being asked to the White House, and they are completely sidestepping it. They don't want to answer about anything that was going on with white phosphorus right now. And you can see that is a complete cover-up. They are now provoking Russia any way they possibly can. And how else are they provoking them? Well, they started up some type of riot near the Russian embassy in Ukraine. They had people throwing things, and a handful of people with place cards reading "Russia, go home," "Novaka," and slogans insulting Russian President Putin initially started picketing near the embassy. Then all of a sudden, we saw the Maidan forces join in, the far right join in, and they started ripping up the pavement, throwing rocks, and you can see what's happening here. They are provoking Russia any way they possibly can. This was a ginned-up riot by the United States central bankers to sit there and provoke Russia, and this is exactly what they're doing. Now, on the other breath, the United States is out there saying the U.S. condemns the attack on the embassy of the Russian Federation in Kiev and calls on Ukrainian government to fulfill its obligation under the Vienna Convention to ensure the necessary security measures. I mean, again, lip service. Let's just think about what happened in Ukraine here. We've had the United States central bankers pay $5 billion to have a coup d'etat in Ukraine. They kicked out the government. They had people that they already had in place that were going to fill those positions, and that's what they did. They brought those people in. Then they had an election when the southeast section was trying to remove itself from Ukraine. Most of the people didn't vote, and we had a candidate, Poroshenko, and many others being introduced into the mix and saying, here are the people you have to vote for. And of course, they are completely part of the puppet regime group. They are part of the CIA. They're part of the whole entire system. And of course, the United States central bankers were out there saying, oh, look, Syria shouldn't have elections. Those are meaningless elections because they're at war. Well, the same thing was happening in Ukraine, and they had no problems there. But we have to remember, if the United States central bankers has control of the government, of the puppet regime, anything goes. The people have no rights. They are terrorists. If it's on the other foot and they don't have control of the government, then the people have the right, and they say that they need freedom, democracy, and they should have the right to kick out the government. So we can see what is going on here. They are really pushing this agenda here to get Russia involved somehow, and they're not going to stop. And so far what we've seen is they haven't stopped one bit. Now, out in Iraq, the Alawi channel is reporting that the Iraq army has been trained for years by the United States, but many of the soldiers threw their weapons and fled. The reason for that is they do not have something to fight for. And again, the United States and central bankers, they can send billions and billions of dollars into Iraq. They can send weapons, they can send aircraft, but if the people decide not to fight, that's where the problem is. They always have a choice, and it seems like a lot of the forces in Iraq right now are saying, you know what, I'm not fighting for this. I'm not going to die for this because I really have no reason at this time. And this is the problem that's going on in Iraq. And we can see the forces in Iraq, they're taking over more and more cities. They're moving into Baghdad. They've been pushed back a little bit. But of course, the U.S. spy drones failed to predict rise of Iraq militants. A secret U.S. drone program proved little use to American and Iraqi officials to really see this coming. Well, for one thing, I think they let it happen. I think they wanted it to happen. I think they wanted to create this case where they can say, yes, these people, these groups are coming down from Syria, and we are definitely going to get in there and bomb Syria. And I think this is what their plan was from the beginning. Yes, these are people, they're fighting back. They want their country back. They want to remove the United States, the central bankers, and this is going to be a problem. But I think part of this is the United States central bankers wanted this to happen because they knew they were going to need to bring in forces somehow, some way, and they're going to need to bring them in and get into Syria, and I think this is what they've been planning. Now, the Pentagon right now, as we know, is bringing in the George H.W. Bush aircraft carrier, and that is accompanied by guided missile cruiser USS Philippine Sea and the guided missile destroyer USS Truxtun. And all these ships are being brought in, and we understand that the USS Bataan is still out there. It's an assault ship with 1,000 Marines on there. We also understand the military assets are in Jordan still, and their troops are still in Jordan, and they've been training those paid mercenaries. So we can see they are really ramping up to do something in Iraq at this time. And of course the president is out there saying, no, we're not going to do anything there. I'm thinking about it. But I hate to say this, they are getting ready to really do something. And right now, a U.S. news site revealed on Saturday that the United States could launch a strike militarily on an air zone in Iraq during the next 24 hours. They haven't made the decision. Of course, they're getting everything into position to get ready to do something in Iraq. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to say they've been fighting them back and pushing them back into Syria, and they need to finish the job, and this is where the problems are going to occur. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.